Hello, everybody. Bill Thornton, SoCalsabre here, and I haven't been on for a week, so I thought I've been tied up with the getting ready for Superstar Baseball season 24, and so I figured since I haven't got a video in a week, I might as well talk to you about what was going on. Well, last Sunday we had the draft. We got one new owner that's going to be managing or owning two teams. So we have four owners all together for for 14 teams. And the draft during the draft we draft 26 starters, 17 fielders, five starting pitchers, and four relief pitchers in the draft. And so for 14 teams, that takes quite a while. We have a system where the each team, for the most part, get a first choice of a certain position, whether it's two starting pitchers, three starting pitchers, or center fielder and everything. It's by like, for example, like a chit pull. When your team moves up to the number one spot, you pull a chit out of the cup, whatever it says. You get the first pick on that one. I wasn't so lucky this year because my three of my four teams got picks because the Atlanta didn't get a pick because you place them down in certain order. It's kind of hard to explain, but anyway, uh, all three of my teams picked the pitchers. One of them picked the three starting pitcher or two starting pitchers, and the other two picked two relief pitchers each. So I was a little bit worried, but my teams look. I'm going to show you here. Be showing you my teams in a little bit. We'll be doing it season 24 again. Will be a 30-game season. Interleague play is in effect. We have 8 teams in the American League now and 6 teams in the National League. So realistically, it'll be easier to get to the finals and get to the playoff, to the World Series if you're in the National League than the American League, because when we get to playoff time, one team will be eliminated from the National League and 3 will be eliminated from the American League before we even do the wild cards. So let me hear if I can show you some of my. So if I get this working right, oh, that's not the right thing. Boy, what am I doing? Let me see. Let me try it. Present. Okay, we're going to share a screen. There we go. These are Excel spreadsheets. This is my Detroit Tiger team. There's a color symbols up on the right to explain what each one means. Like those guys that are in brown. Every one of those guys now that they're drafted must start at least one game during the season. And so, and managers, you got to work on that. And the guys down there in the blue were post-draft free agent signings, and they're in their reserve squads. Each team can have a 5-man score reserve. So as you can see, you know, the way the pitchers worked out, I ended up getting Cy Young as my number one. That's the rotation that I'll be using: the Young, Hubble, Adams, Newhouser, and Spawn. I'm not so real crazy about Cy Young because his numbers on his card. He's got a 23, which is a walk on his card, and I seem to hit that when he's pitching. I hit it all the time, too many times. But as you can see, this is a pretty good team. I got Ken Griffey Jr. in center starting, and Jesse Burkett and Ryan Braun in the outfield. Ryan Braun, this is the first time in SuperStar that he was drafted as a starter and he's getting a full run. Bill Madlock at third, Joe Morgan at second, Jimmy Fox at first, and Mike Piazza at catching. And then on the right-hand side are the bench guys. They all going to play too. But it's going to be a little bit easier this year in the American League because for the very first time in our SuperStar history, the American League will be using the DH this year, and the National League won't. Then next year, we're going to flip it to the National League, and the American League won't. So one team will always have DH, another team won't. So that's going to make it real interesting. I'm just on here to silence my phone before it goes off on this. So that's my I've trusted David Justice. He hit 3 pinch hit home runs in the playoffs last year. That's the reason I said he deserves a chance to be on the bench. Okay. And then here's my relievers right here. The A that you see means that he is an active player in real Major League Baseball. and each team is restricted to only having 3 of them on, of drafting 3 of them. So I did this one here and Matt Holliday and Trout. I don't know how Holly's going to work. First time I've drafted him. So let's go over to my Pittsburgh team. All right. There's the Pirates. I got 2 active guys, Nolan Arenado. I couldn't pass Arenado up. Look at his defense. He's plays third base. He has a 16 defense. The total of your defense in the field has a bearing on your dice rolls and what we call automatic outs. If you have anything 10 through 15 and your defense gives you any one of those and you roll it, then it's an automatic out. Vladimir Guerrero, I picked him up this year as a pinch hitter. I had him last year and gave him a run as a full-time starter, and he didn't do too much for me. But at the point in drafting, I thought, well, I better get some right-handed pinch hitting in there. These are the guys I always picked up: Don Sutton, a starter, and Heath Bell, a relief. After post-draft, I always in post-draft get an extra reliever and an extra a starter for when we start going. When these guys pitch up here, these relievers pitch, then they have to have rest. And so in order to keep the maximum amount of relief pitchers up there, I put the rest guy, the guy that needs rest, in reserve, and activate the guy that's in reserve to the squad. We have a lot of different rules, and now it's not just the old set this lineup and shaking dice. This is a real owner simulation now also. So I'm pretty happy to have Lou Whitaker. I drafted him. I signed him as a free agent late in the season last year as a due to an injury, and he did pretty well. So I said, I'm going to draft him. He's only 286, but he brings a nice 10 defense to the game. So, and he's a left-hander, so we get some left-handers. Then we'll go to Boston, my other American League team. They look pretty good too. I'm a little bit worried about I got my too much power in that starting lineup. They're going to be playing on opening day, which is next Wednesday, the 29th. They're going to be playing Seattle. So what I'm looking at, this is the first time we're doing DHs. So right now what I'm looking at is, I'm probably going to put Edgar Martinez in as a DH. I drafted him, and I'm going to bring Mel Ott over for game 1 and let him play third base. He says 0 defense, but it's better than the -3 that Edgar Martinez has. But that start, I got some, Mel Ott. Roger Maris did a good job for me last year. I drafted him, gave him a full run. He batted .270, hit 8 home runs, and that's good for a 30-game season in Superstar baseball. He drove in 24 runs. I think in the whatever league he was in, the home run title was at 10, I think, for the season. So that was pretty good. Gil Hodges down there is the first time I ever drafted him. I've been looking at him for years. Well, look at that defense, +14, but 298. Now look at his card. His card isn't all that well, but we'll give it a shot. Give it a shot. Tim McCarver, I drafted as my backup catcher. I had him as a backup catcher last year. I put him in. He actually took over the starting position because Joe Torre was catching for me last year. But Joe Torre does not have an arm. That I equals it means he has a good arm. So I moved Joe Torre to third base. I put Tim McCarver in, and it worked out fairly well. My reserves, there's another guy I wanted to draft. I haven't to take a look at. Carl Furillo, got good defense, 320 average. I've been looking at him for a long time, but I never grabbed him. But I did hire him sign him as a free agent here. And last but not least is my Atlanta and my National League. Looking to outfield, I like that. Mickey Mantle, Albert Bell, and Paul Wanner. There's a lot of power, but we got Wanner, Pete Rose, and Charlie Gehringer. Hopefully, these are the guys that are going to be getting on base for these power guys to drive them in. I got plenty of other guys over there on the bench that probably can do well. We'll see as the season started. Paul O'Neill, 2 seasons ago, I had him. He came in. He did real well. He batted right at over 300 for me. And then last year I drafted him, and he didn't do so well. And then I benched him after a while. So this year I says, well, I'll draft him as one of my bench guys, and yeah. So I'll be. I'm not going to show you the other teams right now that are in the uh, what do you call it? In the league by the other owners. But as I did last year, I'll be giving you an occasional update on the season and how it's going. Each time I do an update, I'll show you another one of the owners' teams. So sorry I haven't been on for a week. I've been busy. I am the commissioner for this league, and so after the draft, I had to build all these pucks for all of the different players. I had to pull all of the different player cards out. Then we use iScore for the keeping our stats in our game. So iScore requires you to put them on the teams individually because they are all-star games. So it was quite a bit of work this week, and you guys know I'm an old man. I get tired easy. So anyway, thanks a lot for stopping by, and I hope to see you soon. The SoCalSabre saying, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and stay safe.